When should you progress to more challenging flexibility movements? Flexibility seems to be something that takes a long time, a lot of work. A lot of people get frustrated, a lot of people give up, and a lot of people injure themselves because they progress to something too soon before they're before they're capable of doing the more advanced flexibility movement. So I'll talk to you about when you should progress to a more advanced flexibility movement and also how you can break through plateaus. I'm going to teach you guys a couple of things. I'm not going to talk about, doing this stretch or that stretch, but I'm going to talk about some techniques that you can use in order to break through flexibility plateaus, things that have worked really well for me and thousands, over 10,000 people around the world now that have used our methods. So if you want to get more flexible, if you want to know how you can break through plateaus and make really good progress and advance to those more impressive flexibility movements, then this is for you. But before we get started, the boring stuff, of course, if you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe to my channel. Take 1 second, hit that subscribe button. It goes a really long way and it really helps the algorithm get our content out there. And today's episode is brought to you by VPA Australia. VPA is our chosen supplement company. They're an incredible brand, really good quality supplements that we've been using for well over a decade now. And if you want to go and check them out and get, everything that you need to build muscle, to getting, to supplement your diet, to get in great shape, which for me is a huge part of the results that I've had, head over to vpa.com.au and you can use the code RAD10, that's RAD10 at checkout for a 10% discount. They are by far the best quality supplements at the lowest price that I've found. And if you're overseas and you want to get a flat shipping rate, tell them that I sent you. Just send them an email and say, hey, Rad told me to come here and he said you'd give me a flat shipping rate. All right, let's get into it. So we're talking about flexibility. We're talking about when to know that you're ready for the next flexibility movement. And it's pretty much like every flexibility movement will have a standard, right? So you'll have a minimum requirement of what you can, of what you should be able to do before you want to get to the next one. So with a lot of the loaded stretching, a lot of the loaded flexibility movements that I work with people, in the earlier progressions you do reps and in the later progressions you do holds. Not always, but with a lot of them. And the reason why you do reps versus holds in the earlier progressions is that reps are easier to do. Like if you do a Jefferson curl where you're doing reps, where you curl down and you hit the bottom range and then you curl back up, and then you curl back down, you're spending less time in that range where it's really challenging and it's really uncomfortable, borderline pain. And it's more about getting in and out of the rep, in and out of the movement. So it gives you exposure to the movement, but without causing you too much discomfort of sitting there. Same with an end range contraction. If you're doing an end range contraction for any muscle, but for the middle splits, for example, where you're lifting your leg out to the side, contracting your glutes. When you do reps where you're lifting your leg like this and you're doing reps, you're getting gentle exposure to that end range. Well, it's not gentle, but you're getting exposure to the end range with less time in that really uncomfortable position. And then in later stages, when you get better at your end range contractions, when you get stronger at end range, you then can progress to doing holds. So one of the first things is, it's really just, are you comfortable enough? Can you handle going into the more advanced progression without feeling such a high level of discomfort that you just can't hold it for the minimum amount of time? Because you generally want, when you get into a hold, when you're holding a flexibility movement or an end range contraction, generally speaking, you want to do 30 seconds. Between 30 and 60 seconds usually. For end range contractions, you can start holding with 10 seconds, work up to 30 seconds, but with loaded stretching, you're usually looking for 30 seconds exposure to the movement. So when you're ready to do that, that's often the first sign that you're ready to progress to the more advanced movement. But the second is that you need to be able to feel the first movement before you progress to the next one. So if you're trying to develop hamstring flexibility and you're doing something like a standing loaded hamstring stretch, and if you're looking at the thumbnail that I have on YouTube where I have a position of me doing the seated pike where I'm grabbing my feet, which is it is a beginner movement, but at the same time it's a on the higher end of beginners because a lot of people can't even touch their toes, a lot of beginners. So you'll see a lot of YouTubers and fitness influencers saying, "Oh, this is a beginner move and you can't even do it," and that feels really, really deflating. So if you were that lacking flexibility, you'd need to put a towel around your feet and you'd grab onto a towel to do it. Anyway, the second picture on the thumbnail is me doing, working towards a head to toe, where I'm holding my fist against my toe on one hand, and my fist is touching the toe on one side and my fist is touching my forehead on the other side. So a much more advanced flexibility movement. So, it's this idea of showing this progression going from a more simple movement to a more advanced movement. And if you were going to progress from that seated hamstring stretch to a more advanced progression, which there's lots of stuff between those two progressions, you don't just go from one to the other, you'd want to be feeling the movement in your hamstrings first. You want to be able to palpate those muscles. You want to be able to do the stretch where you get down into the position and you go, okay, I can feel my hamstrings working. And that's one of the first telltale signs that you're ready for the next movement, because a lot of people can't feel the stretch where they're meant to be feeling it. And their solution is, I'm going to just jump to the next thing. And that's very rarely the right solution. It's generally not the way that we want to do things. We want to be able to get a sensation of, okay, this is how this hamstring stretch should feel before I go on to the next one. Because often when you go to the next stretch, it's even more challenging. So you go to the next movement in a path of progressions, it'll be even harder for you to feel the stretch in the area that you're trying to feel. So that's a big consideration. John F1 is saying, what amount of time to active stretching do you recommend or teach with clients? Can you clarify your question? Do you mean how long do you hold a loaded stretch? What amount of passive to active stretching? I think the first answer to your question is to clarify what passive to active stretching is, because I think you may be misunderstanding what those two things are. I think a lot of people do. Do you think that passive stretching is when you just, the old school stretching where you just sit in a stretch and hold it for 30 seconds, like where you just reach for your toes and try to relax and breathe and hold it for 30 seconds? Is that what you think passive stretching is? And what do you call active stretching? I'd love to know. So passive stretching that's what I would call passive stretching. I would call passive stretching where you're just sitting there, you're relaxing into a stretch. It's that old school sort of just hold it for 30 seconds, then relax. But active stretching is, I don't actually really use that term because I don't believe that it really describes what we do well. And there is a problem with flexibility training where there is no sort of generalized terms. People use lots of different terms. People even use the word mobility in very different contexts, and people that are very noteworthy, that have achieved a lot with their training. So I'm not going to say, well, this person's wrong if they say that that's mobility because it's really this, when they've achieved a lot, because there is no standardized term for it. But so you're saying passive stretching where you relax your muscles, right? That's what I thought. Active is like pushing down, creating a contraction. Yeah, that's one way to describe it. So I much prefer to just use the terms mobility and flexibility as two different terms, two different styles of ways to get flexible. And then within flexibility, we have end range contractions and loaded stretching. Those are usually the terms that I use. And the way that I define the difference is mobility is any movement that takes your joint through full range of motion. And flexibility is a series of different techniques that are used to increase the flexibility of muscles with the goal to increase mobility. So that might seem confusing, but let me break it down a little bit. So if mobility is any movement that takes your joint through full range of motion, if I bring my shoulder up and circle it around, that's mobility training, but only if I go to full range of motion. If I'm even 10% less than full range of motion, it's not full mobility training. A deep squat, sitting in a deep squat, is mobility training. Even doing a dip, if I go all the way down in a dip as low as I can go and I really let gravity push me as far as I can and then push back up, that's mobility training for my shoulders. Flexibility would be the exercises that I do to release the neural inhibitors that are restricting my range of motion, because mobility refers to the way how much a joint will move. Flexibility are the exercises that you do to, well, people would say to make your muscles more flexible. It's kind of right, but it's kind of wrong as well, because your muscles don't lack flexibility. It's that your nervous system has these neural inhibitors that contract the muscles when they sense that you're going to a range of motion that's dangerous. And flexibility training is a series of exercises that is designed to delay those inhibitors. So yes, it makes your muscles more flexible, but it's not making them more elastic. It's not making them longer. It's not making them more pliable. Apparently, when people are under general anesthetic, which means their nervous system is completely shut down, people that can barely touch their toes, the nurses and the surgeons can put their legs into the splits, no problem. I've heard surgeons and nurses say that that's what happens when people are under general anesthetic. So it's not that the muscles are tight, it's that the nervous system is doing a really, really good job of restricting range of motion. So what I do is, mobility is softer, it's more gentle, it's something that you can do daily, and it's something that will always make you feel better afterwards. You'll always feel better after a mobility session. So it's really, really good for a warm-up or a cool-down. Flexibility training is very, very different. Flexibility training would probably be what you're calling, well, actually, it's definitely what you're calling active stretching, where you're pushing against a stretch. But that's a method of flexibility training that I'll talk about in a sec. And that is much harder. Creates fatigue in the body. You need to recover from it. So you'll do a flexibility session and you'll need to recover from that flexibility session just like you would a weightlifting session. And the ratio of how I would do that is I recommend mobility can be done daily. So mobility that we do in our warm-up in the UMS goes for 10 minutes. You do that every day. You do it, you do mobility that's specific to your warm-up. And then I do mobility on any days that I'm not training, because I feel shit otherwise if I don't do it. When I wake up in the morning, my body just feels so stiff, and I just got to move around and do some mobility, do some foam rolling, and then I feel better. Flexibility training, very, very different. Flexibility training, I might do flexibility training on the same muscle group, so what you're calling active stretching. I would do that on the same muscle group 2, maybe 3 times a week. But it's much more demanding. You're doing sets and you're doing reps, and it's really tough. So there you go. Ashish is saying, why do you do pulling moments differently? I've seen you pulling scapular. Brother, that is not a question for today. I'd like you to, at least if you want questions that aren't related to today's live stream, ask them at the end, please. So when do you know, how do you know when you're ready to go to the next one? So I've covered that you want to at least feel like you're comfortable in the stretch. And I've also covered that you want to feel like you can actually feel the movement that you're trying to stretch. You want to be able to feel a hamstring flexibility movement in the hamstrings before you want to go to the next level. And then you want to make sure that when you go to the next stretch, when you go to the next progression, and you're looking at the coaching video of how you should be able to do it, you should be able to make it look like your coach is saying this is what it should look like. So for example, if you're doing a loaded pancake, your back needs to be straight. You need a neutral spine. You can't round your back during a loaded pancake. If you do a Jefferson curl, you should round your back. In a loaded pancake, you shouldn't. The flexibility, the movement should be coming from the hips, from hinging at the hips. So if you can't do that, if your back rounds when you do the movement, then you need to regress it and do something different. So you'd elevate your bum. You might even bend your knees. There's all those different progressions that you do. So now let's talk about what do you do if you're stuck and you've been doing this same movement for 2 months, for 3 months, you're not making any progress, because you should be making progress if you're doing things the right way. And the best way that I have found to break through plateaus like that is with foam rolling and trigger point release. Because again, what we're trying to do with flexibility training is, actually, I'm going to caveat that. That's if you're doing end range contractions already, because I'll talk about that in just a second. So if you're doing end range contractions and you're doing loaded stretching, but you're stuck, then something that can really give you a breakthrough is trigger point release. Because what we're trying to do is we're trying to release the neural inhibitors, or we're trying to delay the neural inhibitors so that they kick in later. So that when you hinge at your hips and you get to here, instead of the neural inhibitors kicking in and tightening up the muscles and stopping you from going any further than that, you want the neural inhibitors to kick in here. Okay? So trigger point release is a really, James on Instagram, I'm going to answer your question in just a sec. So trigger point release is, it can actually trick the neural inhibitors. It can hack the nervous system. That's actually what you're doing when you do trigger point release. Like when you get a lacrosse massage ball, like this one, which is really nice and firm, like it's a really tough ball, cost about, depending on which country you live in, somewhere between $6 and $15 on Amazon. Then when you press that into your back, you create this pain response that's greater than everything else that the body feels. And so the nervous system, the brain, senses this, and it realizes that everything else that it's trying to protect you from isn't so bad, and it releases muscles. That's the best explanation that I've heard from a world-class physical therapist as to what goes on with trigger point release. So when a physio or a masseuse is pushing hard into a muscle and then they finish and you get out and you go, oh my God, I feel so much better. That's actually what's going on. It's just that they're creating a pain response in an area that's greater than what you're dealing with. And then the nervous system goes, oh, this isn't so bad, I'm going to release it. And so that can actually help you to break through flexibility plateaus as well. So foam rolling is really, really good for that, but you want a foam roller that's quite aggressive, and that depends on how conditioned you are to it. So for me, I need something like this. So this is a rumble roller. Is that what they're called? I can't remember what they're called. I think they're called rumble rollers. I think if you Google rumble roller, one of these will come up. But this is also quite narrow in diameter. So you can get them that are quite a bit thicker, and the narrower they are, the more intense they are, and the firmer these are, the more intense they are. Now, when I started foam rolling, just foam rolling on a gentle blue foam roller, like the typical ones that you'd see at a gym, was agony for me. It was so uncomfortable. But after a month or two, I adapted, and then I needed something more. And then I went to a rumble roller like this, but it was softer. It was a softer rubber, and that was agony for me. A month or two later, I could go to something firmer. Then I went to a firmer one, but it was thicker. And the whole idea with a thinner one is that it means that the pressure is spread over an even smaller area. Anyway, it has the same result as using the massage ball, the trigger point release ball. Like you're just doing it over your whole body. And doing that daily, like you need to do it for a while. When you do foam rolling and trigger point release, it's not like you just do it once and you get, well, so actually you can get an immediate result, but you're also going to get a result from an accumulated effect of doing it daily. Now, before I continue, I've got a question here to answer on Instagram from James. And if you guys have got questions, ask them and I'll answer them for you. James is saying, an issue I've run into with progress and which other coaches don't seem to want to check or train is nerve tension, specifically sciatic nerve tension. I've heard it limits stretching. Well, so I want to just clarify this a little bit. So nerves aren't elastic by nature at all. So nerves are pretty fixed already. So nerves don't stretch and contract. You don't get tense nerves and you don't get relaxed nerves. What you can get is nerve impingement. So you can get where the nerve is meant to glide between muscles. So all these muscles are laid all on top of each other and they're surrounded by fascia. Fascia is that stuff where when you get a chicken breast, and there's that layer of clear skin that you can peel off the outside. That's what fascia is. And fascia surrounds all our organs and it surrounds all our muscle bodies and acts like a lubricant so that it all slides on each other. Otherwise, it'd just be like muscle on muscle or organ on organ, which wouldn't work well. So it's like the layer of lubricant. And fascia can actually become adhesive. You can get adhesions in your muscles where they're meant to. So let's say we've got muscles that are running over each other this way, like this, and this muscle is meant to contract this way, and this muscle is meant to contract that way. And they're meant to be able to glide on each other like that, but then you can get adhesions where they don't move very well like this. And this is what, there's a technique of physical therapy called ART, active release techniques. And that's basically what ART is trying to do. trap muscles, and then they get you to move through full range of motion. So they'll trap that muscle and they won't let it go anywhere, and then they'll make this muscle move through full range of motion to release the adhesion. Because when you've got the adhesion, what's happening is if this muscle moves, it pulls this muscle with it, which causes aches and pains and all this kind of stuff. So what can happen is that nerves can become trapped like that as well. And from my understanding, that's what's going on with sciatica. So sciatica is a bitch of a thing to deal with. It really is. And I really feel for you. I know a lot of people that have had sciatica, and I've had my fair share of really tough problems that would be in that category. I haven't actually had sciatica, but I've trained people with sciatica before. The problem is that there isn't a do this to fix that solution that everybody agrees on. You know, with a lot of other injuries, there is a treatment protocol that a lot of physical therapists or a lot of chiropractors will agree on. With, for example, you know, with lifting, with getting stronger. If somebody says, I want to get stronger, what's the best way to get stronger? Most people that are worth anything would agree that if you lift weights, you're going to get stronger. You know, so somebody's going to say, go to the gym, get stronger, you'll build muscle. So, you know, with flexibility training, it is getting a little bit closer to more and more people agreeing that loaded stretching and end range contractions are the best way to do it. There are still some people that are preaching really old and outdated methods of just sit and hold a stretch for 30 seconds. But with something like sciatica and with something like nerve impingement, it isn't as clear. So what I'm going to say to you is what's worked for me, and it's what's worked for many, many other people around the world. It's a matter of being never giving up on the process of getting better. And in my experience, you cannot abdicate the responsibility of fixing your own body to someone else. And so what do I mean by that? What I've observed is that far too many people think that the solution to their sciatica is that they need to go and see a chiropractor and a physical therapist or a masseuse, and they're going to massage them to being better. And it's not the solution. The solution is to develop a level of strength and flexibility within the body that your body is capable enough to move without these what was I saying before? It's you guys have got to excuse me. Whenever I do these live streams, I do them at a time that suits you guys over in America and in Europe. But it's 5:30 a.m. when I start here, and I don't drink coffee anymore. And these are the first words I've spoken all day. So I've literally rolled out of bed, gone to the toilet and come down. So my thoughts aren't as clear as they could be when I do these. Nerve impingement is the term that I was looking for. So, you know, it often comes from inflammation. So inflammation in the body. And inflammation often comes from weakness, from a lack of strength. So if you are not strong enough to be doing whatever it is that you're doing, and you go to do something and you strain a muscle, then the nervous system creates inflammation in the area for two things. One, to increase circulation and for healing, but another, to apply pressure to nerves to restrict range of motion so that when you try to move, you feel this and you feel this pain, and it makes you not do the movement that the nervous system is thinking to itself, this is going to cause an injury for me. So what I think you should do, you're saying now, I only feel nerve discomfort or numbness when stretching, especially when they call it tensioning the nerve. Got no idea what tensioning the nerve is. Frederick Farr, I'll answer your question in a minute. Honestly, what I'd be doing if I was you is this. You want to get as strong as possible so that your body can handle everything that you do without causing injuries that create inflammation that are going to cause problems. One of the best ways to relieve sciatica is to get a really strong posterior chain, which means you deadlift. If deadlifting is too painful for you, you start with hip thrusts and you progress to it. You also need to develop unilateral strength, which is vital, which means that you're training your legs, left leg and right leg, individually, not always together. Unilateral strength and bilateral strength are very important. Often sciatica will be coming, that inflammation will be coming from an imbalance from left to right side. If you have more strength and more muscle mass on one side than the other, then there's an imbalance there. It's going to cause your pelvis to sit differently. It's going to cause you to stand differently. It's going to cause you to walk differently, everything. And that can be the cause for it. And you need to be progressive, which means that whatever it is that you do now will only really be the right thing for you to do for the next 4 to 6 weeks, because your body adapts very, very quickly to whatever it is that you're doing. And in 4 to 6 weeks, you're going to need to move to a slightly more challenging version of exercises that you're doing. This is where a lot of people go wrong. They don't understand how to use progressive overload and program periodization. So when they either do the same thing for too long and they plateau, and then when they try and go to something new, they take much too big a leap. They jump from something where they should be jumping from here to here, and they try to go from here to here, and they hurt themselves. They flare up their sciatica again, and then they blame the gym, and they go back on this hamster wheel of just going to physical therapists that cost an arm and a leg, so they can only afford to see them maybe once every 2 or 3 weeks. And because of that business model, the physical therapists always give them this set of exercises that are really, really basic, because they're giving them stuff that they know if they do this, they're not going to hurt themselves on their own. And then I'll see them in 3 weeks and I'll review them. But that's a really, really slow way to make progress. You know, you should have a closer feedback loop with the person that's helping you, that's guiding you, that's giving you, you know, the exercises that you need to be doing. You really need to be able to have a feedback loop that's, you know, at least every couple of days. So I know this is a shameless plug, but this is why we do online coaching, where for a month it's less than half the cost of what one physical therapy session would be. So if you want to do all of this and you really want to make change, I guarantee you that whatever progress you make from watching YouTube videos and asking videos, it'll take you 10 times longer than if you came and worked with somebody like me and did it. So if you want to do that, go to unitygym.com and get started. But hopefully I've given you some food for thought there that can help you. Frederick Farr is saying how to deal with soreness. I do 2 lower body lifting sessions and 2 flexibility sessions, focusing on the splits and pancake a week. The problem is that I always feel some soreness, limiting flexibility. Yeah, that's a problem. And that's about choosing the right program split. That's how you pair your exercises together. And when you recover from one set of exercises to another, because you have to, if you want to get flexible, and you're going into your flexibility sessions where you're so sore that you can't, you know, access your full range of motion, then that's stifling your progress. And that is an art. That's not something that I can answer simply, because I don't know what your program split is. I don't know when you're doing squatting and when you're doing hamstring flexibility and how it's all coming together. You know, putting together a program split, you know, from Monday to Sunday, where however many days you might be working out 3 days a week from Monday to Sunday, but where you have the rest periods, when you do strength training for your hamstrings and when you do flexibility training for the hamstrings, it's a real art form. So, you know, the answer is that you need to come up with a better program split, something that's going to work better for you. And you might be pushing too hard in your flexibility movements. If you're feeling too much pain and discomfort, then you need to back off a little bit and see if when you go into the next flexibility session, if you're not feeling that pain and discomfort, and if you can go further. So hope that helps. He-Man is saying, wish you have a good day, man. I do too. And James is saying, thanks. You're welcome, James. I hope that helps. I really do. Hope it helps. And if you guys, both of you guys, if you really want to take control of this, come and join my online coaching. Go to unitygym.com. It'll change your life. John on YouTube is saying, I thought that one, I found it gnarly. Oh, he's saying I bought that one. I found it gnarly. I do bruise easily. Is bruising okay for progressing while using them? Absolutely not. You do not want to be bruising. Bruising is one of those things that's stifling the progress. So you want to back off a little bit and let your body adapt. And maybe it's too intense for you. Look, you know, I've maybe had a couple of bruises along the way, but I would certainly not say it's okay. It didn't kill me. It didn't mess me up. It's just something that you want to avoid. Yeah. Hobbit Girl is saying, what can you do for winged scapula on both sides? You need to strengthen the muscles that create a force coupling on the scapula that pull it in place. So you strengthen the serratus anterior, you strengthen the mid and lower trapezius with exercises like scapular push-ups, and trap 3 raises. Those two muscle systems pull opposingly on the scapula and will help hold it in place. You need to train full range of motion, retraction and protraction when you do pulling movements. So that means that when you're pulling on rings, you allow your scapula to protract all the way, which is where the scapula pushes away from the spine. And then when you pull, you initiate with retraction, where the scapula pulls towards the spine, and then you row, you maintain the retraction as you straighten the arms, and then you protract. You do that on every single rep, which means you'll probably have to reduce the amount of weight that you're lifting. And you make sure that you never, ever skimp off on proper exercise technique execution in favor of lifting more weights. Never try to lift more weights and let that technique go out the window. And you train pushing and pulling in a 1-to-1 ratio in your programming. You're welcome. Thank you for asking a question. Anuj is saying, what's the best foam roller to use to graduate from a hard foam roller? So you're using a firm foam roller already? A rumble roller, man. One of these ones. But generally speaking, the blue ones are softer. I'm pretty sure most companies have standardized that now. So honestly, I get my stuff from Amazon. I go to Amazon and actually, you know what I did? I was not happy with what I found on Amazon with foam rollers. They were all like $80 and it's a bloody rip-off, man. You know, this is not an $80 piece of equipment. These are made in factories for like 50 cents. So I could not find what I considered to be a well-priced rumble roller on Amazon. And so I Googled it and I found this company, which is an Australian company. So I don't know what you'll find overseas, or you'll have to pay for international shipping. And this was $20. This was a quarter of the price of what I found on Amazon. But yes, if you're using a hard foam roller already, you would go to a soft rumble roller. So it will look exactly like that, but it'll be dark blue, almost like a gray blue. The color of them is. So it's like kind of halfway between that color and blue, and it will be thicker than that, and it will probably be longer as well. And that's what I would progress to. John, and then Anuj is saying currently using a lacrosse ball for targeted release and hard foam rolling for daily mobility, considering making one out of PVC pipe. Well, that's like on another level, PVC pipe. That's like really tough. You can do it, but they're hectic. Holger is saying, how much of the total stretching, strengthening training should be static passive stretching? I currently do about 20% static passive stretching. The rest is strength and loaded or active stretches. Look, man, I don't do any static. Actually, I shouldn't say that. Static stretching, loaded stretching can still be static stretching. If you're holding a stretch and sitting still and you're using weights, that's a loaded stretch and it's a static stretch, yeah? But I don't do much passive stretching at all. I don't have a place for it in my training. So my answer to that question is 0 passive stretching. Whenever I do passive stretching, the only time I ever do it is if I've just finished a set of active or loaded stretching or end range strength, and then I might just sit down in a passive stretch for 10 seconds or something just to relax. That's about it. I don't use it for training. It doesn't deliver good results. I spent over a decade using passive stretching and just got nowhere with it. And then I spent 6 to 12 months using loaded stretching and end range contractions, and I unlocked the middle splits and much more advanced levels of flexibility. So I wouldn't waste my time on it. Kurt Dyer is saying, was recently over in Sydney on a holiday, beautiful part of the world. Was there just after the big thunderstorm. Hope your home didn't have any damage. Sounded like a wild night. Keep up the great work. Awesome, Kurt. Yeah, it's a beautiful city. It is. No, we didn't have any. Oh, look, all the trees were annihilated around here, but we didn't have any damage to our home. Amber's saying, do you have a video on trigger point pressure points to help release a plateau? I do on my YouTube channel. If you Google trigger point release, but it's all for the shoulders, for the upper back. But it's the same thing for, it's the same thing. I'll answer your question in just a sec, Hobbit girl. It's the same thing for anywhere in the body. If you watch that video, you'll learn about how to do it, and then you just do it, wherever you need it. So I'm just going to answer one more question, and then I'm going to talk about end range contractions and breaking through plateaus as well. Hobbit Girl saying, sorry for another one, but if glutes are seriously suffering from weakness, sarcopenia, what exercises can I get my mum to do that work them, build them up with the least amount of QL or quad hamstring compensation? For your mum, honestly, start with hip thrusts, laying on the ground. Laying on the ground, hip thrusts are a really, really good way to activate the glutes. And then you can do shoulders elevated hip thrusts after she's got used to those, and you can put a little bit of weight on the hips. They're a really good one to do. Hope that helps. So back to how do you break through flexibility plateaus. So I've talked about relieving inflammation. I've talked about making sure you're doing the right progression. I've talked about feeling the muscles the right way before you move to the next progression. And I've talked about using trigger point release. And now we're talking about how do you break through plateaus when you can't go any further. Often, you're welcome, Hobbit Girl. Thanks for tuning in, and thanks for watching. I do these, for those of you on Instagram, if you don't know, I do these live streams daily. I start 40 minutes ago. So whatever time zone you're in now, 40 minutes ago is when I start. So come on and ask your questions for me. So we have to talk about end range contractions now, because I've talked to you about that. What's limiting your flexibility is the neural inhibitors. The neural inhibitors are kicking in and they're tightening your muscles up, which is preventing your range of motion. And one of the best ways to delay the neural inhibitors is with end range contractions. So you might be nodding your head going, yeah, Rad, I know this. Teach me something I don't know. Well, I want to clarify some things about it. Okay. I just had one of our most advanced UMS members come up and spend a day with me up here. Milos started working with me online in 2019. He was one of our first ever online coaching members. He would have been within the first 20 or 30 people that joined our online coaching. And he's been with us ever since. So he's been working with me for 6 years now. And we met each other for the first time last week, and it was a great day. I did an interview with him. I talked to him about his experience. I wanted to learn about him, and I put up a little short version of that interview for our tribe inside the UMS coaching app yesterday, just as a little sort of preview for the full interview that's coming up. And what we did in the workout, I did a workout with him, and I said, what do you need help with? What are you struggling with? And he told me a couple of things. Want to get better at handstands, and I'm struggling with this movement, and I feel like I need some help with this. And so I asked him to show me about 5 or 6 of the fundamental strength training movements for the inner unit. So for the rotator cuff, so external rotation, seated external rotation from the knee, an inverted kettlebell press for the serratus anterior and rotator cuff, trap 3 raise for the mid and lower traps. We did the arching scapular pull-in, scapular push-up, front lever. And I think that was it. And every single one of them, I gave him, and he's a strong dude, man. Like if you look at him, he's a jacked dude, and he's very, very strong. And things like dips and pull-ups and squats and things like that. But he wasn't even half as strong as I am with those fundamental movements. And I showed him a couple of little things. I said, pull your shoulder here. Can you, he was doing it, and there was a little bit of incorrect movement. I corrected his movement, got him to reduce the weight, and he just went, oh my God, I can feel that so much better in the area that I'm at. And so the reason I'm saying this is that the finer points of doing the stuff that you think you already know is quite often where the magic happens. It really is. Look, it's a bucket of ice in a suit. That's the Instagram handle of somebody that's saying, can I ask you a general question I'm working out? Yes, you can. You can ask me any question you want. So yes, ask me a question. So you might be thinking, yeah, I know about end range contractions, Rad. I know that I should be doing them, but are you doing them properly? Because when you do an end range contraction, when you do it the right way, it causes muscle cramps for most people the first couple of times they do them. And if I haven't done my trigger point release or my foam rolling for a couple of days, I'll even still get muscle cramps. Like I'll go to do my end range contractions and then one of my muscles will cramp and I'll go, shit, and I've got to sort of pull it around the other way. You have to be working so hard at your end range for an end range contraction to be working. You have to be very honest with yourself with where your end range is. You have to understand that, even this short of end range isn't end range, So if you can lift your arm into shoulder flexion up to here, but when you do end range contractions, you work it there. You can barely even see that difference in movement, but one of them will make you more flexible and one of them won't. So it is very often that when you're stuck in a flexibility movement, it's very common, I should say, that the solution is not to go to the next level of loaded stretching. It's not to push harder with loaded stretching to get more weight. The solution is often to work harder and smarter with end range contractions. It's really, really important to get that right. I'm getting asked the question, what exactly is the importance of a cool down after working out? I don't place much importance on it at all. Hobbit Girl's saying, what would you do for end range contractions for the hamstrings? Just give me a sec. I don't place much importance on warming down at all because I've only got so much time to work out. And I struggle to get my workouts done in less than 90 minutes. And a part of that is because I'm completely on my own at my home gym and I get distracted, and I look at things that I shouldn't be looking at when I'm working out and it takes me too long. But when I finish my workout, I don't have time for a warm down. I'm into my next thing with my day. So if you want to, you could do mobility at the end of your workout. It is a good way to solidify flexibility gains. It's very, very useful. And if you've just gone for a very, 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 high intensity interval training session or a really high intensity cardio session, then it is good to cool down for 5 minutes and allow your heart rate to just come down sort of whilst you're still moving without just, immediately stopping. But I don't do cool downs and I don't teach cool downs because people, the people that I work with struggle to even fit 1 hour into a workout. And it's very, very hard to get everything that you want to be able to do to make people strong and flexible into a 1 hour workout. So that's my answer. Hobbit Girl's saying, what would you do for end range contractions for the hamstrings? End range contractions to make your hamstrings more flexible. The end range contractions are for the hip flexors. So it's exercises where you're lifting your leg up like this, contracting the hip flexors here. That's what an end range contraction is. It's not about contracting the hamstrings. So there's lots of different exercises to do it, and it completely depends on your level of flexibility. If you go to my YouTube channel, I've got heaps of videos on that. So in a nutshell, let's break it down. You want to get more flexible, but you can't break through plateaus. Oh, actually, no, I won't say that. I'll say one more thing. One more thing that is really going to help you to get more flexible is doing full range strength training. And this is another area where I keep seeing people fall short. Full range strength training, if you can bring your arm down to here on a chest press, but you train to here because you can lift more weight, you are not doing full range strength training. And despite all of the flexibility work that you're doing, every single rep of every single set of every single workout of chest pressing that you're doing, you're sending a counter signal to your nervous system that you're trying to send to make it more flexible. You're telling your nervous system, I only want to get strong here. I only want to get strong here. I don't want to get strong down here. So this range isn't important. The only range that's important is that range. And that can go for any muscle group. See, the same thing with squatting. One of the first things I do with people when they talk about flexibility and lack thereof is I look at their squat, and they'll do a squat. They'll show me a set with 200 pounds on the barbell, whatever it is. And then I say, show me a squat with an empty barbell and go as low as you can. So just the barbell, no weight on it. And lo and behold, they go about that much deeper when there's no weight on the barbell. So what can we learn from that? They're squatting too much for what their full range of motion is. Now you might favor, training needs to be specific to your goals. So I'm not saying that there is no reason to do reduced range of motion with increased strength. If you're a power lifter, you only need to go until your thighs are parallel to the ground and then get back up. They don't have a need for going ass to grass squatting. They don't need to be strong there, and it actually works against them to be working that range of motion. They want their muscles and their nervous system to restrict their range of motion at that point, and then the stretch shortening cycle kicks in and flings them back up. If you're a weightlifter, an Olympic weightlifter, it's complete opposite. They absolutely have to get an ass to grass squat because their entire sport is they have to get the barbell up as high as they can, which is generally maybe chest height, and then they got to drop underneath it as quick as they can. So they need an incredibly flexible squat and incredible flexible shoulders. So if you're, I just said that, to make sure that you guys understand, I'm not making a blanket statement where if you can't ass to grass squat, then you're not squatting the right way. But for what I want to do, and for what the people that come to train with me want to do, the people that I'm training want to be strong and flexible. We want to be in the best shape of our lives as we age. We want to be able to move well. And most of us have got children. Most of us have got careers. Most of us are struggling to even find an hour a day to work out. So that hour has to be really, really efficient. And when the hour of working out that you have, or the 40 minutes, whatever you've got, for the 3, 4, 5 days a week that you can dedicate to your training, you want to make sure that every single minute of that hour is producing the best result possible. And so that's why we pair flexibility training with strength training. That's why we combine the two together, so that when you do one set of strength training for the upper body, you do a set of flexibility training for the lower body. That's one way to make it really, really efficient. And another way to make it really, really efficient is to do full range of motion strength training, so that you're not just increasing strength, you're not just building muscle mass, but you're also increasing flexibility with every rep of every movement. So yeah, those are the things that you want to be looking at if you want to increase your flexibility. You want to look at all of those areas if you're having plateaus. And the last thing that I'll say is it's also about just being consistent and being dedicated and not giving up, and understanding that this is a journey of exploration. It's a journey of discovery. And I know this is a shameless plug, but for those of you that have made it this far, the only times I've ever made Do you do live channels every day, right? Yes, I do. Effie is saying I do. It's been the school. I know that any of you that watch my stuff could say, but you haven't gone live every day this year yet, Rad. Yeah, you're right. School holidays is freaking hard for me to go live every day because I'm a parent and I manage my son with my wife, and some days it's just hard for me to go live. But he goes back to school next week, and I'm recommitting to going live every day. So yes, Effie, I go live every day, Monday to Friday, Australia time, which means that if you're in Europe or America, it's Sunday to Thursday. And I go live at 5:30 a.m. Australia time, which is 53 minutes ago. So if you look at your clock, 53 minutes ago is when I went live. And when I go live, I always try to come up with a topic. But the more you guys ask questions with me, the better these live streams are. Because if I'm just talking to nobody, I'm doing a lot of umming and ahhing and I'm trying to think of what I should say. But when you guys ask me questions, that's when, I can give good answers, okay? So Ashish, I'll answer your question in a minute because we're getting to the end of what I wanted to talk about. So, who else is here? Captain Nav is saying, thanks for the slap tear 20-minute online routine. It is helping a bit so far. I enjoy it. That's really, really good. I'm really happy to hear that, Captain Nav. That's awesome. Proud Misfit is saying, what are your thoughts on full body training? Effie is saying, I'm in Turkey. That's awesome. Coming at you from the other side of the world. So, Proud Misfit, what are my thoughts on full body training? So you mean a workout where you do all the muscle groups in the one workout? So where you do lower body and upper body in the same workout? If that's what you mean, my thoughts are very, very good for specific goals, which I'll talk about in a minute. Brezel's saying, I can't believe you're up at 5:30 a.m. doing these, top man. Thank you. I appreciate that. I'll tell you why I do that. I've got a little story for that one. And Proud Misfit, I'll answer your question in just a minute. I butt heads with my wife a bit about this. She begs me to sleep in and she hates that I get up this early. But I have been a morning person for my entire life. My mum tells me that when I was 7 years old, I used to fall asleep naturally at about 7 or 7:30 p.m. She couldn't keep me awake past then, and I would wake up the moment the sun came up. Like as soon as the birds were chirping, which is really before the sun comes up, I was up and I was awake and I was ready to go. And I've got memories of being a child, very, very vivid memories because it happened every single day, where my mum and my dad had said to me, when you get up, this is where the Weet Bix are, this is where the milk is. You can have breakfast and then you can go and play outside, but you are not allowed to come and wake us up. And I used to get up and have breakfast, go and play for 2 hours. And Yanni, my brother, who's my business partner, he's the complete opposite. Mum, I never knew this because I was always asleep, but Mum was struggling to put him to sleep at 9:30 or 10. And he would always sleep in until about 7 or 7:30. And then when he woke up and Mum and Dad woke up, that's when I'd come in and then have my second breakfast with my family before I had 11sies, if you get my reference. And so I've always been like that. And it's just it's my circadian rhythm. I really, really struggle to stay awake past 8:30 or 9 o'clock. And so when I started my online business, I just said to myself, because also when I was in the army, we had to get up early. And then when I got out of the army and we opened Unity Gym, I just nominated myself to do the morning class, which my business partner and brother Yanni and my other business partner Richard really loved because they hated the idea of being at the gym for a 5:30 a.m. class. That was fine by me. So I took the morning class for them. And then when we started the online business, I just thought, look, if I'm going to be awake at this time anyway, again, this is efficiency, right? I just want to make the best use of my time. So I'm always looking at how can I use my time best. And if I lay in bed until 6:30 or 7, I am literally laying there looking at the roof for about 2 hours, twiddling my thumbs. I'm just sitting there. And then that just seems like a real waste of time for me. So I'd rather just get up and do work. And then when we started doing these live streams, and when I look at our viewers, the majority of our viewers on social media are in the United States of America. And maybe for those of you guys that are in the United States of America that are watching, put a little comment on there. Why is it that you like my channel? Our channel, I should say. It's not my channel. It's mine and my brother's channel. Why is it that you like our channel? Why do you like our stuff? Because I've always wondered why we've managed to captivate the United States audience and the overseas audience. I get a lot of people in Australia, a lot of business people are like, oh man, how did you get in with the United States? And I don't know how we did it. We just started posting content and people started watching it. So anyway, that's why I do it, because when I looked at the time difference and I thought, well, if I go live, Yanni wanted me to go live with him at like midday Australia time, which is in another 6 hours, which means it's completely in the middle of the night for Europe and very, very late at night for the United States. Anyway, that's why I do it at this time. So I appreciate the kind words. So, okay, Proud Misfit, what are your thoughts on full body training? Full body training is really, really good for fat loss. If you want to lose fat, then full body training is incredible. It's a really, really good place to start. Way to train. And the reason why is because the best way, so the biggest problem with fat loss, actually, I'm going to go back one step. The biggest problem with fat loss is that people call it weight loss. You do not want to lose weight. You want to lose fat. You want to be very, very clear about that. And when you talk about losing weight could be muscle and fat. And what happens is that most people, when they do a weight loss program, most people achieve weight loss by cardio training and calorie restrictions, which is basically both calorie deficit. So they're consuming less calories in a 24-hour period than they're using. Or another way to say it would be they're burning more calories in a 24-hour period than they're eating, which puts them in a calorie deficit, which means they're going to lose weight. But when you lose weight, the body loses muscle and fat at the same rate. Let that sink in for a minute. So you're looking at the scales and whoop-de-doo, I've lost 20 pounds in 3 weeks. But you've actually lost most likely 10 pounds of muscle and 10 pounds of fat, and that is catastrophic because that causes the body to rebound because everybody returns to calorie neutral or calorie surplus. Again, eventually, nobody stays in calorie deficit forever. If you did, you would eventually die. You would just you would starve to death. So you eventually start eating enough that you can put on weight again. And when that happens, the body stores as much fat as possible, which is why people that lose weight that way always, every single time, without fail, rebound back, put all the weight on and some. So what you really want to be doing is, first thing you want to be doing is you want to clarify that you want to lose fat. And when you clarify that you want to lose fat and you want to maintain muscle, the only way to maintain muscle is through resistance training. And when you're doing a fat loss program, the best way to do that is with full body circuits, full body workouts that train the whole body, because they burn the most calories. So they burn more calories whilst they're stimulating muscle growth, which makes them really, really good for that. And it's also another really good reason to do that is because cardio training is very important for fat loss. So if you're doing a fat loss program, doing full body strength training sessions 2 or 3 times a week is the sweet spot. And then you want to do 2 or 3 cardio sessions a week as well. So that's when I would use full body training. The other time to use full body training is if you're time poor. If you just don't have the time to do longer workouts or to do more than 2 workouts a week. And if your workouts are sporadic, if some weeks you only got 1 workout done and other weeks you could do 3 workouts, if that was you, then doing full body workouts is the way to go. Because that way, if you might intend to go to the gym 3 times a week, but you only get there once, and you did a full body workout, so you did some legs and some upper body as well, it means you've trained your whole body in that 1 week. So that's when I use them. Oh, Captain Nav saying I got an ad break when you read my message. Oh, I'm sorry to say that, man. Okay, what was your message? Let me see it again. What was your message? Where is it? I can't see it. Oh, here we are. You're saying, you were saying it's helping a bit so far. You enjoy it. Yeah, man. Look, it's, mate, that program it's the start. Just remember that it is the start. You're going to get a result. You're already experiencing it. You're feeling that you have a reduction in pain already, which is great. That's the desired result. But eventually you'll plateau and you need to do a new program. You need to continue to progress. So make sure that you reach out to me at that point when it happens. Usually that's around the 4-week mark when people need a new program. What are the other comments that I've got here? And I've got it. Okay, I think sorry guys, I've got comments on Instagram that I didn't see because it wasn't scrolling. So let me see what you guys have asked me here on Instagram. As hamstrings are super tight, you're saying, Hobbit girl. Oh, look, thank you. Yeah, go and look at some of my hamstring flexibility videos on YouTube. Mark Moore is saying, what are some movements to help my slap tear before running? Your slap tear, so in your shoulder before running. Movements that activate the neuromuscular connection between the scapular stabilizers. So wall ball, medicine control drills are good. Also external rotation and internal rotation, so to stimulate the rotator cuff. They're good exercises to do to start with. And what else have I got? Sorry, I'm getting used to how Instagram comments work on a live stream, and so I haven't seen them here. Okay, I've got another one here from Sean Gann Trains. What you value and focus on in health and fitness is very similar to what I focus on and value. That's great. And Sean from the US. Hello, Sean. That's awesome, man. I'm happy to hear that, that we share the same values. That's really, really cool. All right, so back to YouTube. We've got Kogono Mori. Should I stretch before, during, or after my workout martial arts? Definitely do not stretch before your workout. Do mobility before your workout. And then you would do, during the workout, when you do your kicking, well, what martial art do you do? Tell me what martial arts you do. But generally speaking, you would do flexibility training after your workout. And don't do static stretching. I don't like the word stretch because people seem to think stretching means static stretching, like just sit and hold. Do loaded stretching and end range contractions, and do that at the end of your workout. And go to my YouTube channel. You can see so many examples of how to do that, how to get started with that. But look, actually, I should rephrase that. The first place to start is with mobility training. The first place to start is with a 20-minute mobility routine, because that hits all the major muscle groups in your body, and it's what's going to give you the biggest win in the quickest way. It's the lowest hanging fruit. It's the easiest thing that you can do that's going to give you the biggest win with flexibility training. Once you've adapted to that and that's become really incorporated in your training, then you go to loaded stretching and end range contractions. If you want to learn more about that, you can check out the Flexibility Masterclass, which is on our website, unitygym.com. And I'll say this again, any of you guys that are tired of watching YouTube videos and trying to figure all this out for yourself, do my online coaching. Do it for a few months. You'll learn more in 3 months than you'll learn in 3 years of watching YouTube videos, and it'll set you up for life. It really will. All right, Amber is saying, hi from California. You, the UMS, do things completely differently than anything we have here and get results. It's like the US is all trained by the same NASM instructor. Yeah, right. I don't even know what NASM means, but I can only imagine it's your body of education. Amber is one of our long-term UMS tribe members. We've been working together, Amber, for over a year now, so I love it when you comment. And Gazale is also one of my UMS online coaching tribe members. We've been working together for probably just under a year now, haven't we, Gazale? And she's saying, so many reasons we love you. You're efficient and knowledgeable. I can tell you have experience. Love the personalizations. You understand our age group and juggling family, life, career, fitness. And I personally love hearing your stories with your brother since I have 2 sons. That's cool. That's so cool. Thank you, Gazale. And thank you, Amber. I really appreciate you guys tuning in and giving me your feedback. My naturopath doctor is also in Australia. Cool. Captain Nav is saying, thanks, I will. That's awesome. You're welcome. And Kagoro Mori is saying MMI and Muay Thai. That's awesome. So yeah, you definitely want to be able to kick high if you do MMA and especially Muay Thai. And even if you don't want to throw head kicks, the higher you can kick, the easier it is for kicking. I've actually got a really good guide for you, man. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to share a video that goes for 5 minutes that's specific to martial artists for high kicking. And then there's a downloadable guide that you can get that'll teach you some really, really cool stuff about kicking high. I think this is it. Let me just have a quick look because I'll share the link with you. And it looks like it is. Yeah, it is. All right, here we go. I'll share this video with you. So watch this video. It only goes for 5 minutes. This is going to teach you a lot about high kicking for martial artists, and it is going to, there's a downloadable guide that you can get as well. It's free, so you can download it and get it. Mark Moore, hang on, I've got some more questions over here on Instagram. Mark Moore is saying, how can I get in contact with you for a program for a slap tear? Okay, I'm going to clarify this for starters. You're in contact with me right now. For my coaching, I don't do sales calls, so I don't have a consultation with people. I don't offer that. And I want you to know why. I believe that the business model that most online coaching people, I'm going to give you the short answer. The short answer is go to unitygym.com/slaptear. unitygym.com/slaptear. Choose an option to sign up. Choose the annual membership or the monthly membership. Cancel whenever you want. Get started. And once you log in, the first thing that you'll do is fill out a pre-exercise questionnaire, and I will see that pre-exercise questionnaire. I'll review it within 24 hours, and then you'll be communicating with me in the app, and I will create a custom program that is specific to you and your needs. And from then on, you can communicate with me as much as you need in the app. We are about to start doing a monthly group coaching call. So Amber and Gazale, you may not know of this. Yanni and I are going to do it next week. We'll announce the date. We're doing that this year, so that's a monthly call where it'll be a group call that anybody can get on. But the business model that I see, because I get exposed to man, there are so many gurus out there now that are teaching people like me how to create online fitness businesses. And I believe that the business model that they're pushing is really broken. They're all pushing this high ticket sales business model where they're, the terminology that they use is you want to be selling high ticket packages. So they're selling packages that are anywhere from $900 to maybe $2,000 for 90 days, for 3 months. So you're talking about, around the, I guess, $80 to $200 a week, for training. And what they are teaching people to do with that is that you have a consultation, where you book a call with somebody and it's a sales call, you're following this sales script of, learning about people's goals and then discovering the problem and then offering the solution and then getting them to sign up and commit to a program. And then they get a custom program written for that, and they get a one-on-one call with you once a week for 15 minutes or so. I don't agree with that business model at all. I did it for a long time. The reason why my brother and I do things the way we do, very differently, which is where we charge $79 a month, which is a fraction of what other coaches charge, is for the same reason that when we were at our gym in North Sydney, we stopped doing one-on-one personal training, and we only did group training in the last couple of years of our operation. And the reason was this. I want to tell you guys a story. And this was really fascinating to us because we were personal trainers. We became personal trainers in 2005. Can you believe it? 20 years ago. I didn't have all these gray hairs in my beard back then, that's for sure. And we were personal trainers at a place called Fitness First until 2013. Except for me, I had 4 years in the army. I was an infantry soldier. And then we opened Unity Gym in 2013, and we sold Unity Gym in 2021. So we operated it for 8 years. And we did personal training. That's what we did. People did one-on-one coaching with us. And as a personal trainer, as our experience increased, as we became more under demand, and especially when we opened Unity Gym and we had to pay $13,000 a month rent. Wrap your head around that for a moment. $13,000 a month rent, because we're in the middle of North Sydney. And we were charging $150 an hour for personal training, because that's what we really needed to. That's what we needed to do to be able to cover expenses, and people were paying it. We were in the middle of North Sydney. We had a lot of corporate executives. We had a lot of corporate professionals that were making 6 figures a year, that were paying $150 an hour for personal training, and that were doing 2 or 3 sessions a week. And what we noticed was a really incredible phenomenon. The people that were doing the group classes were getting better results than the people that were doing the personal training. So the people that were paying $70 or $80 a week for group training were getting better results than the people that were paying $300 or $400 or $500 a week for doing personal training. And we were scratching our heads at first, but what we noticed was that the people that were doing the group classes were, one, being more consistent and more frequent, because the group training membership was allowing them to come 5 days a week, whereas the personal training membership was only for the sessions that you were paying for. And so there was a mentality within personal training clients that all they needed to do was the 2 or 3 sessions a week that they were paying for, and they were going to get the results that they wanted. The other thing that was different about the group training was the tribe mentality. People were part of a tribe. They were coming in and they had their buddies that they were training with. So when we did online coaching, and this is the last thing, and this is probably arguably the most important thing, is that people that did personal training, they never saw it as a long-term fix for their problem. They always saw it as a short-term thing. They believed that they would do personal training for 3 months or 6 months until they got the result they wanted, and then they would go it on their own. Because really, even people that are affluent, even people that are making a lot more money than the rest of us, that are in those 6-figure income salaries, they still don't want to pay $500 a week long term. They'd still rather invest that money, or they'd still rather put it to their second Porsche or whatever it is that they're doing, or their children's $25,000 a year private school fees, whatever it is. So very, very few people would want to do the personal training long term to get the results. But this is a really big problem. I want you guys to understand this. I know that what we all believe is that we can do these things on our own. We all do. Everybody wants to believe that I can achieve this result on my own. I don't need a coach. I don't need somebody that can get me there. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to work with a coach. I'm going to get started with them. I'm going to learn something with them, and then I'm going to continue to get the results on my own. But there's a real problem with that mentality, because the thing that got you the result in the first place when you work with a coach was working with a coach. And then you remove that thing and think that you're still going to get the results. I haven't seen it happen. In my experience, when I've seen people come and do personal training and then they stop the personal training, and then I see them 6 months or 12 months later on the street and they've put all the weight back on, or they've lost all their strength, like their body has just gone back to the way it was before they started, because the accountability's gone and the coaching that got them the result is now gone. It's removed. And so I know that I'm going on a bit of a rant here, but you've asked me how can I get in contact with you for a program for slap tears. I don't do sales calls. I don't do that business model. What I offer is a business model that allows people to do this long term. You know, I talked before about one of our tribe members, Milos, who I've just interviewed, who I'm going to be editing his video today, was one of our first online coaching tribe members. He started with me 6 years ago, and I was talking to him in person about this. So he's been training with me for 6 years, and that's the reason why he's had such a phenomenal result, because he sees it as a long-term thing. And we've got lots of members that have been with us for 4, 5, 6 years, because the price that we charge, if you really weigh it up against all the other things that you're spending money on in your life, you're looking at a coffee a day for $5. You're looking at the bottle of wine that you spend on the weekend for whatever it is. There's all these little costs that we all spend that we don't factor into our budget. And, for $79 a month, $20 a week, $3 a day, you can get access to something that long-term will completely change your body, which will completely change your life. And so that's why, I know that was a real rant, but because I get people often that reach out to me and say, how can I get on a call with you? And I don't offer it, because if I offered calls, if I was sitting here online and I was saying, and then somebody said to me, hey, how do I get on a call with you? And I had my schedule that was open, and I had all these available slots where you can go and you can book a call with me, which is a sales call. It's me trying to convince you to come and join my online coaching. I would have to charge 10 times what I charge, because the only way that I could make money off that, to be able to pay my bills and feed my family and support, my family, is that time that I give would have to be worth money, and so instead I do it a really different way. And I think that this is a much better way for everybody, is that I put my time into doing things like the time that I have that isn't devoted to coaching my online tribe. I put my time into connecting with you guys like this and answering your questions, going live, seeing how I can help you. And then when you're at that point where you want to go to that next step, if you think I want to go further, I want to fix my slap tear, I want to do this, the next step is to come and join the online coaching. And if you're not ready to commit to a year, do it for monthly, and you can cancel whenever you want. And the worst thing that's going to happen to you is that you might pay for 1 month and go, it's not for me, I don't really like it, and you cancel and you move on with your life. And it's just going to be a period of time that you did. It'll be something that you tried and it wasn't right for you. But if you're on the fence, then I don't think that's what's going to happen. Because if you go to Google and you type in Unity Gym, and click on our 328 Google reviews with a 5-star average rating, and read any of them from people who have joined who have slap tears, you'll see that people get incredible results from this. You know what? Because you guys are still here and you're still listening, I'm going to read this one review. Give me 60 seconds of your time, because this one is relevant to what I've just said. This is from Randeep. 2 weeks ago, a 5-star review. He says, there are a lot of online coaches out there. Some ask for $1,000 tuition fees, provide text files of workouts with indecipherable descriptions, and provide minimal feedback. There are so many ways a person could get frustrated, confused, overwhelmed, and give up. And the prospect of online coaching can seem dicey and uncertain. Unity Gym stands out from the rest. What sets it apart? For sure, the coaches are knowledgeable. I've gotten so much value out of Rad's YouTube channel alone. The program they designed and the cues contained there work specifically to some issues that I am dealing with. But I think more than anything, they really want you to succeed. While I am only a few weeks into my training, I can see that Rad puts so much effort into the programming and the coaching. He knows how easy it is to feel overwhelmed and confused, and really makes an effort to come up with creative strategies for not giving up. If you're here on this page, it is probably because you're blah, blah, blah. So anyway, I know that was a shameless plug, but you guys are asking the questions, and I know that you're sitting here thinking this. I know that you're wondering, like, how do I get these results? Is it really going to do this for me? And this is the whole reason why we don't, say, yeah, sure, join my online coaching. Let's have a sales call. And then at the end of the call, it's like, yeah, no problem. If you're ready to commit, it's only $1,200. And do you want to pay that up front or in 3 installments? No, we don't do that. We just give you a really low barrier of entry so you can come in and try it and see for yourself how incredible it is. So if you want to do that for a slap tear, go to unitygym.com/slap tear, because on that page I have a video that talks specific about slap tears. For everybody else, if you just want to learn about our online coaching, go to unitygym.com. Hobbit Girl is saying, I'm karate though, but kicks are super important. Yeah, absolutely. Go and watch that video. For those of you that are on Instagram, and I can't share the link, if you go to YouTube and type in powerful martial arts exercises for high kicks, that's a really good video, because I did martial arts for 13 years. I did Kung Fu, and I can kick pretty high. So I know a lot about high kicks for martial arts. So if you want to learn about high kicks for martial arts, go and watch that video. Hobbit Girl is saying, the MMA video you spoke about for the other dude. Oh yeah, well there it is. That's it. And I'm sorry on Instagram that the comments don't automatically scroll for me when I choose one. So I missed a whole bunch of it. So if any of you guys have got more questions, let me know and I will answer them for you. And Brezel is saying, I consider you guys knees over toes for shoulders. Oh, that's awesome. Thank you so much. That's such a kind comment, because I have that guy's a really good coach. He's done a great thing for the world with what he's done. Kogoro Mori is saying, thanks man, that's really nice of you. You're welcome. And Gazale is saying, the app you use is also great and you all are very responsive on it. My husband is doing the one-to-one weekly coaching with a nutritionist, and you can totally tell it's scripted. Yeah, really interesting. He's very knowledgeable, but his business model, we can tell, is based on what you're talking about. Yeah. Look, it's a hard world out there. Being, running if any of you guys have run a business, it's really hard, because you start the business because you're passionate about it and you want to help people, but you have to make money to pay your bills. You have to do it. But Yanni and I, we always had the end in mind. So we've always started with the end in mind. Like, what is the end goal for this? And when we realized that when we did our online business at first, we did what everybody else was doing, because this is what every single business coach was telling us to do. You must charge high ticket. You have to charge, $300 or $400 a month minimum. And, you do a sales call, you blah, 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 and this is the business model. And we did that, and we were getting all these people in, and we made a ton of money, in the first couple of months we did it. But then they all stopped their training 3 months or 6 months later, and none of them had achieved their goals yet. They were all saying, yeah, I feel like I know what to do, and I'm on the way, and I'm getting there, and it's time for me to go it on my own now. And we just knew that we were doing those people a disservice. And so that's why we changed to what we do now, Gazale. We just said, no, this isn't the right way to do it. We need something that is going to allow people and facilitate people to be able to do this long term. So thanks for validating that for me. I really appreciate that. And yeah, I bet because of the amount of coaches that are out there, for those of you... I might get some hate mail from any coach that's going to watch this, but I doubt any of them are going to see it. But any of you that are looking at doing an online coaching with a coach, see what happens when they book you in for a call. See if you can recognize what I've just said, where they're going to ask connecting questions so that they can get to know you and build rapport. Then they're going to ask discovery questions to learn what your goals are, and they're going to try to identify a problem that you have. And once they've identified the problem that you have, they're going to create a cost to that problem. So they're going to start talking to you about, different costs and stuff. And then they'll present the solution, and the solution will cost you most likely between $100 to $200 a week, and it will include a whole bunch of things, in a coaching call and everything as well. So yeah. If that's what you want, go for it, but it'll be a short-term fix to a long-term problem. And in my experience, it will not work for you. In my 20 years of experience, it will be something that will be easy come, easy go. You will get a result while you're working with them, and then as soon as you stop working with them, you will lose the result, because the thing that you were doing to get you there will be removed. Now, of course, that isn't forever. There is a threshold where people will get to when you know so much and you really are capable of doing it on your own. But that takes time. It takes much more than 3 to 6 months for that to happen. So anyway, there you go. If you guys are more interested in all of that, for those of you that are still watching, go to unitygym.com. And if you've got a slap tear, go to unitygym.com/slap tear. Or if you've got any shoulder injury. And if you're watching on YouTube, please take a moment to hit the subscribe button. Guys, if you've been watching here now this is one of the longest live streams I've done in bonkers. We've been here for an hour and a half now. If you've been watching, then please, please, please hit the subscribe button. And if you're on Instagram and watching, my best content, my long videos, my tutorials, everything, it's all over on YouTube. So head over to YouTube, hit that subscribe button, and get the good stuff. And I'll see you on Monday. It's Friday over here now. My wife and my son will be waking up soon, so I've got to get ready to go up and say hello to them. But thank you so much for your engagement today, guys. This has been one of the best live streams I've done in a while for me, because I've had so many great questions and I've been able to answer them. And if you're tuning in at the end and you didn't know this, remember that I go live Monday to Friday at 5:30 a.m. Australia time, which is 1 hour and 26 minutes ago. So whatever time zone you're in, 1 hour and 26 minutes ago is when I go live every day, Monday to Friday. If you're in the US or Europe, that's going to be Sunday to Thursday for you, because we're ahead of time. Cool. So, and if you want to know what's going on in the future as well, if you want to get some predictions for the future for what's going on over here in Australia, let me know and I'll hit you up. All right, I'll see you guys soon. Have a wonderful day. And Amber and Ghazaleh, I'll see you in the UMS coaching app when I do my coaching again today. And keep an eye out for Milos's interview. I'm going to be hopefully finalizing that today and getting that published, because it's a really, really good story. He comes from war-torn Serbia, Croatia. He came to Australia when he was 13 as a refugee he was a refugee from the war in Serbia and Croatia in the 90s. So it was an incredible story. All right, team, I'll see you later. Have a wonderful day.